Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Hello and welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast. My name is Ray. As always, the MMA Mental podcast is sponsored by UK Fightwear, and you can follow them on Twitter at UKFW. You can also follow us on Twitter at MMA Mental, and we're also sponsored by the UFC Live Facebook page, which you can like on Facebook, along with MMAmental.com and UFC Games, two more Facebook pages for you to check out. Check out our fellow podcasts, the MMA Podcast and the Word on the Street. And also, just to keep you up to date, I'm still training as I'll be fighting Stephen Mayer of Almighty Fightwear on Cage Fighter Leeds at Ellen Road in March. We'll both be raising money for charity. I want to thank Sean Flynn and Matty Evans for both giving me one-on-one sessions to help me prepare for the fight. Matty Evans is a personal trainer. He covers fitness as well as all aspects of MMA. He can also provide support on nutrition. If you would like more information, then you can contact Matty on 07899 002091. Okay, we've got 4 guest stroke segments this week. So we're starting off with Performance Potentia with Dave Bond. Dave continues his focus on biosignature testing and explains how it has helped Kerry Hughes as she prepares for her Cage Warriors debut. Then we've got UK MMA with Your MMA, which is hosted by Jay Furness. Jay gives us a whistle-stop tour of the UK MMA scene and also UK fighters fighting internationally. Then we're joined by Davey Grant as he breaks down the latest Tough 18 episode. He gives us his views on another impressive performance from Julianna Pena. And then finally our guest is Mike Wooten, also from Tough 18. Mike talks about his time in the house, his 2 wins and 1 loss, and his future in the UFC.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Potential Performance segment with myself, Dave Bond. This week I want to chat to you about one of the fighters we're working with at the moment, Kerry Hughes, who spoke last time in this segment, and the progressions that she's having. So I think we've talked a lot, like I said before, we've talked a lot about the different aspects and the different angles that we do within the strength and conditioning program, away from the fight camps and the fight gyms. The bit that we look at, the strength and conditioning and the nutritional and the more science behind it. And so to actually follow someone who's put up for a fight, Kerry, who fights on 7th December in Cage Warriors in Newcastle, we're now prepping her ready for her fight. So it's actually really nice for me to be able to sort of talk to you guys about what we're doing with her, the effects it's having, what she's looking at specifically, because it's not all smooth, it's not all plain sailing, and how we're progressing and how we're getting on. It's great for me to actually show you the things I've talked about in action. So, as you heard from Kerry's last segment, or the last segment Kerry did for us, she had her biosignature done 2 weeks ago. Her biosignature test, where we look at her hormonal profile around the body, we look at how much lean muscle she's carrying, we look at how much body fat she's carrying, we look at the hormones that are out of balance. And for Kerry at the time, 2 weeks ago, one of the issues we were facing was actually she was carrying too much muscle. So Kerry has got to weigh in at 61.5 kilograms on the Friday before the fight. And 2 weeks ago, she was carrying 61 kilograms of lean muscle, which doesn't leave a lot of leeway for anything else. So one of the conditioning team, myself, Kate Mitchell, who does all our biosignature testing and nutritional advice. So we've then had to look at, for Kerry, we've had to look at her nutrition, the supplementation she was taking, and also her training as well, and adjust it so that she's getting the most out of her body. She's in the best possible shape physically, but also she hits weight and hits weight comfortably without putting the body under too much stress. So what we've had her doing over the last couple of weeks, to give you a bit of an idea, we've had her on a high protein diet. So starting with the nutrition side, we've had her on a high protein diet. We've reduced her complex carbs, or starchy carbs, most people know them as, so things like bread, rice, pasta, potato, we've reduced right back, and we've looked at other sources for carbohydrates. So she's got a lot of vegetables. She's getting carb sources obviously from a protein as well, but lots of vegetables, fruit, things like that. And we've come back on the more kind of the products that bulk out the meals. So in doing that, what we're actually doing is we're increasing her testosterone levels to burn to counteract the estrogen, the high estrogen levels that we found in the last biosig. Also, with the diet as well, is we want her to be using some of the stores that she's got to bring her body fat. There's a little bit of body fat on the last biosig was slightly higher than where we want it, so we're using this as a way to just pull her body fat aspect down as well. So high protein, little and often, taking her into grazing. We've also dropped some of her supplements as well. So Kerry's sponsored by Eat Protein, and ourselves at Potentia, all of us at Potentia, have got great links with the guys at Eat Protein. So we work with those guys, and we'll communicate with those guys with regards to the supplementation she's on. So she's dropped amino acids, BCAAs, and branched chain amino acids from her daily sort of intake. She was using BCAAs during workouts, taking on quite a lot, and we've dropped those for the moment because we don't want to encourage any lean mass. So BCAAs would have helped her increase her muscle mass, increase her muscle size, functional. You know, the muscle that she's got becomes more effective. She's putting protein back into the muscles basically, and we've dropped those out because, again, like I said at the beginning, we need her to drop a little bit of muscle. So that's what we've done with supplements. She's still taking post-workout shakes. Still got a little bit of protein in there, maybe a little bit less than usual, but she's still taking protein shakes to help recover the body straight after workouts. And there's I know Kate's got to go on a couple of other little supplements as well, but not going into too much detail. But the supplements that she's taken, again, all herbal, all based around working with her body to kind of bring those hormones back into alignment that were out, and to get the effect that we need out of it. So that's with regards to the nutrition and the supplementation. With regards to the training, what we've had her doing is we've had her doing 2 weight sessions. We've dropped her weight sessions from 3 to 2. So she's got 2 weight sessions a week that she does upper body and lower body. Those sessions are based around strength. So she is doing no more than 6 reps. She's doing no more than sort of 4 to 5 sets. Loads of rest in between, and generally probably only about 4 exercises per session. The reason we're keeping the reps low is we don't want her body to hypertrophy. We don't want her body to go into that muscle building and that kind of bodybuilding kind of the hypertrophy stage that people associate with bodybuilding. So we're getting her strength high, so the muscle that she's got becomes effective, but we're not going into that kind of hypertrophy stage. The reason we want that again is for the testosterone levels. We want to increase the growth hormone, increase the testosterone so the body functions better, burns the body fat, and becomes as effective as we can. What we're having to do, same as unfortunately with the last fight, I mean, it's a great place to be in when you're carrying lots and lots of muscle, but not so good when you're having to hit weight. So what we've had to, with dropping the weight session, what we've had to get Kerry to do now is come in 2 or 3 times a week and just do what we call LSD training. So she's got the boring task at the moment, well, I certainly think it's boring, of coming in 45 minutes to an hour, bike, cross trainer, literally on one machine, and just nice, low intensity, nothing that encourages muscle growth. Everything's really slow, really monotonous, and just burns off a little bit of muscle. So just nice LSD training, long, slow distance training, where she's doing long durations, doing low intensity exercise, just to kind of get that muscle, burn off that little bit of muscle that's not been used. The good thing we've got with Kerry is she trains hard all the time. That's brilliant for us. And because she trains hard, because she's down at BKK all the time, training with the guys down there, going through the different martial arts, you know, she'd be doing pad sessions one day, she might be doing MMA the next, she might be doing jiu, she might be doing whatever she's doing. She's constantly in combat. She's constantly doing a combat of some sort. So she's, like I say, regardless of which part of it she's doing, she's constantly training. So the great thing is the muscle that she needs to compete, she's keeping because it's being used all the time. So what we're actually achieving by doing our strength training is making the muscle that she needs stronger, and by doing our LSD training is getting rid of the muscle that she's not using. Any of that muscle that she's not using regularly all the time, and the body suddenly goes, actually, do you know what, I don't need this anymore. The body's getting rid of it. So the fact that she's down the gym every day at BKK, absolutely 100% backs up the results that we're trying to get from a strength and conditioning point of view, because the body is converting all the time. All the strength sessions we're doing, the body's straight away converting that muscle into relevant muscle type and making those muscles stronger. Anything that she doesn't need, we're burning off in our LSD training session. So fundamentally where we want to be is muscle. Yes, she will lose a little bit of muscle, but the muscle that she's lost is muscle that she hasn't been using. It was unwanted weight that she was carrying around. And the other place we want to be is obviously body fat to drop a few percent. I think off the top of my head she was sitting at 13% body fat, which was slightly higher than where we had her for her last fight. So again, we've got a couple of percent body fat to play with there, which will put her down as well, just to strip that weight down. And this, like I said, we want to get as close to that weight as possible for fight night, and we're trying to strategically work it so that we're dropping weight at the right pace, so that come weigh-ins, if we've got a little bit to tinker with, we can pull out a little bit of the we can kind of like drop a little bit of water. We do kneel by mat if we need to, but what we're hoping to do is to avoid that and to get her in prime position, ready for the fight. So the biopsy is actually due to be taken as I speak to you now tomorrow morning. So unfortunately, at this time, I can't. What I can't do is give you an update of how we're getting on with regards to the biosignature test. But hopefully next week I'll be able to bring that straight to you. But the scales that she's been sort of keeping a close eye on are showing promising signs as the weight's coming down. She's looking a lot leaner. So I lay my life on the fact that her body fats are dropping. And you know what? She's lost no performance speed. If anything, her performance is enhanced as well. She's hitting fight camp, and I kind of keep hearing about the rounds that she's doing with the likes of Sean Carter, Arnold Allen, Jack Mason, and those guys. So she's working hard in the gym. She's working hard. She's working hard down at BKK. She's working hard at Potentia. She's watching what she eats. And fundamentally, like I said, next week I'll be able to bring you the results to show you exactly where we are at this point. But fundamentally, she's looking great with what we've put in place and how we're assessing her constantly. So biosignature, 2-week biosignature check-ins tomorrow. We'll look at the hormones again. We'll look at her weight. We'll look at her lean muscle mass that she's carrying, body fat that she's carrying, and then again we'll tweak and we'll change as we need to ensure that we're on the right tracks for weight cut on the Friday before. So, like I said, that's where we are with her. If anyone's got any questions with regards to what we're doing, anyone's got any interest or questions with regards to the fights they've got coming up themselves, or even just general questions, then as always, give me a shout. I'm on Twitter, Dave_B_Potentia. That's @Dave_B_Potentia. Look me up on there. A lot of the stuff that I do, a lot of the training I do with Kerry, we pop on there as well. If you're on Facebook, look for Potentia Performance Limited. The page is on Facebook. Or ping me an email, dave@potentiaperformance.co.uk. That's dave@potentiaperformance.co.uk. And like I said, we've got a team of guys down here who work with a number of fighters and also lots of different athletes in lots of different disciplines. And we use the same techniques across different sports effectively. So any questions you've got, give us a shout.
Hi guys, Jay Furness here. We're back with the UK MMA update with Your MMA. Just giving you a whistle-stop tour through what's been going on in the last week on the domestic circuit. Few fight announcements coming through from OMAC in Liverpool. The talk around this card had been quite quiet until this week, but some really good fights have come through on that. Lee Chadwick versus Arunas Andriuskevicius is going to be the main event for the title there. And you've got the likes of Dean Garnett versus Nico Joker, Artem Lobov versus Christian Holly. Some really good fights with some very talented fighters. So that's really picking up for the end of the month. It's looking set to be a good show. As always in these updates, Cage Warriors have been doing big things. They've announced the show for Baghdad. They've got 3 events left before the end of the year, and all the cards are looking stacked. But they've also just dropped the bomb on us today that they're expanding into Scandinavia. They've just taken on a new operations manager, and they're looking to hold 3 events there next year. So that's another big coup for those guys, and major expansion going on. Over the weekend, internationally, we had Lee McGeary. I mean, this guy doesn't get talked about much, but he's now 6-0, and he's got 3 wins under the Bellator banner. He got a submission win this time against a guy called Mojtaba Ali, obviously over in the US. He's training out there at Pellegrino MMA, and he's doing really well. So yeah, give him your support. He definitely deserves it. He's doing big things internationally. Over the weekend, you had Fight UK, probably the biggest card of the weekend. Good wins for the likes of Chris Meyer there, Donnie Miller, Gaz Pilot, Craig Turner back in action as well. He got another stoppage win, so it's good to see him back. And you've got the likes of Too Much Talent. Was at the weekend. Andy Young beat Joe Lawrence in the main fight there, and Ultimate Impact held what was, by all accounts, another good event down there, where always growing and always putting on good fight cards there. What we've got to look forward to next weekend, there's a really good made for the cage card that's got some top fights on it. You're looking at the likes of Martin Thompson versus James Mulheron, Galbraith versus Cook, Barrow versus Thompson, Philpott versus Akuno. You could go on and on about how good the fights are there. If you can't make it to the event, which I'd recommend because it's a good show, but you can watch it live on their website or on their Facebook this time, so check it out on Saturday night. The new show, the new amateur show, Shinobi War, are holding their event in North Wales too. As always, with all this stuff, you can find out fight cards, all the details, and all the coverage at yourmma.tv. So if you want more information, make sure you keep up with us. We're on Twitter at YourMMA. We're on Facebook. Just type Your MMA into your search bar or head over to the website. You can follow me at Jay Furness MMA, and I'll be back on the MMA Mental podcast next week, giving you a rundown of all the action. Till then, take it easy.
Okay, I'm now joined by Davey Grant. Davey's here to break down the latest episode 11 of The Ultimate Fighter Season 18. Davey, thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Okay, obviously this week the focus was on the first female semi-final, which was Sarah Morris and Julianna Pena. So we're going to focus a lot on the build-up to that fight and those two girls this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there was a lot of talk of bad feeling towards Julianna. Were you aware of all this?
Yeah, I mean, everyone seemed to dislike her. Personally, I didn't. I think I was one of the only people in the house who just talked to her and said her like normal. You know what I mean? She was going on saying, that everyone hates her in the house and no one talks to her. And I was thinking, well, that's not true, because I used to sit and talk to her. Me and Mike were both the same. We like got on with everyone in the house, so we never tried to single anyone. We would talk to everyone. Whereas, like, I know a lot of the girls and a lot of the guys didn't like Julianna, but I got on all right with her. She wasn't too bad. She could be a little bit irritating at times, but not to the point where I wasn't going to talk to her or dislike her.
So I was going to say, why do you think people didn't like them? What?
I don't know, because she was like, she would cook for people. She would do the washing up after people and stuff like that. She just sometimes she could just be a bit irritating. She would ask like I don't know. She would ask like me questions and yeah. I mean, you could see how she could rub people up the wrong way, but I didn't mind her.
I mean, she's quite young. She's early 20s. Do you think it was down to maybe a little bit of immaturity? Do you think?
I don't know. No, I wouldn't say immaturity. I'm more just the way she is, you know, because she was pretty mature for her age, I thought. So I wouldn't say it was down to maturity.
Okay, now obviously Sarah and Julianna had fought before, and Sarah actually dislocated Julianna's arm. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, we all knew. It was a big talking point in the house that Sarah fought Julianna and snapped her arm.
Yeah, because she didn't.
In a previous fight.
She didn't tap, did she? So going into the fight, then, who did you think was going to win the fight? Obviously, with what you've seen of the girls and what you knew.
To be honest, I thought Sarah was. Everyone seemed really confident that Sarah was going to win. I sort of expected the same thing to happen. I mean, Sarah looked really strong in her first fight as well against Peggy Morgan. So, I mean, I was expecting Sarah to win, really. I was believing the hype in the house.
Yeah, I mean, going into the fight, obviously Julianna had looked really good in her first fight, but going off the fact they had that history together, you'd have to favour Sarah, really, wouldn't you, going into that fight?
Yeah, definitely. And then it was totally different in the end. Julianna came out and didn't ask to put it on her.
Yeah.
And she did really well, and I was really impressed. She really deserved the win. It was a great performance.
Yeah, I was just going to say then, a quick review of the fight then. Julianna controlled the fight from the off. She looked good on the feet.
Yeah.
And she kind of controlled from top position. Then she obviously sunk in the guillotine choke. What did you think to Julianna's performance?
Sorry, say that again? What did I think of Julianna's performance?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a really strong performance. I mean, she was there banging when she was stood up. She was really pushing the pace, had good cage control. When she was on top, she looked really strong. She was getting in some good positions, past the guard, landed some good ground and pound, and then the guillotine to finish off. It was slick. I mean, I'd have been proud of that guillotine. It was brilliant.
I mean, Julianna, it's probably fair to say she had a really tough route with her first fight and her second fight. So overall,
definitely. I mean, Shayna Baszler was their favourite in the competition.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, and she went and took her out, and then and I think the Sarah Morris, she was highly recommended and coming for a pretty good win, and then took her out as well. So yeah, she really did well.
So I was going to say then, overall, were you impressed with Julianna in the house?
With the fighting skills, really impressed us.
Yeah, she's certainly shown a lot. I mean, obviously, again, you wouldn't have seen this while you were in the house, of course, because she was in Misha Tate's team. But Misha obviously was friends with her, and she focused a lot on her during the training. But you know, she was obviously she's proven herself to be one of the better fighters, one of the better female fighters in the house, hasn't she?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I mean, the main episode really was focused on them two in the build-up. They didn't show much else really, especially with effects to the guys, or even really with effect to your team, because they were both Misha Tate fighters. It literally focused on that, didn't it?
Yeah.
But obviously next week's going to be different, because next week we'll be back as always again to break down the next episode. Looks like there's going to be 13 episodes this season. So next week looks like they're going to be focusing on your fight and Anthony Gutierrez's fight. And of course, you're both in Ronda Rousey's team, so there'll be a lot of focus, I think, on you guys and that team next week. So that should be good.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get a bit of airtime.
Cool. Okay. Well, obviously, we'll thanks for coming back on and breaking down this fight in this episode. Before we let you go, just want to give you a chance to do any shout outs. As always, friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, just give a big shout out to me, my fiance, and my two sons being there, most importantly, and then to my sponsors, so Just Up Some Marquee, Grant's Gym, Bad Boy, and the Biltong Man. If I could give all them a shout out, that would be great.
Well, thank you very much for coming back on the show, and we look forward to breaking down your episode next week with your fight on.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, sir.
Okay, we're now joined by the Ultimate Fighter Season 18 contestant Mike Wooten. Mike has had a very good run on the show. He went 2-1 and made it all the way to the semi-finals. Mike, thank you very much for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me on.
My pleasure. So I've set out a few questions, a few pointers for me with regards to you in the house. Just wanted to get your general take of the season, really. So starting from the beginning, to get in the house, you had to fight Emil Hartzner. Did you know much about him going into the fight?
No, I didn't. You know, Emil is well, I know now he's a very credible opponent, and he's he trains with real good guys. But you know, when I kind of got told I was fighting him, I didn't know anything about him. And you basically turn up for the fight to get in the house. You turn up, and then they take you to they do the weigh-ins, and then that night they take you to the gym. And in the gym, that's when the fight gets picked, and you get to square off and see the first of your opponents. But I'd actually saw a bit of Emil just before the weigh-ins. A couple of days before, me and him both got out a bit earlier, as well as Davey, and we were sat by the pool and we were chatting. And he's a nice guy, and a great opponent.
Do you think it was an advantage or a disadvantage not knowing about your opponent? So you kind of didn't have time to think about it, or would you rather know a little bit and know what you're going into?
Yeah, I think you'd like to know a little bit. Obviously, if you're fighting a world-class grappler or something like that, then you're looking to try and keep it on the feet, and vice versa. So, having a little bit of a heads up prior is great to know. But yeah, you know what it's like. I mean, in that situation, you've just kind of got to go along with it, and you should just be happy that you're getting a chance to fight on the show, and go out there and put on a good performance.
Now, how pleased were you to just to get that win and get into the house? 'Cause that's always the biggest moment, I think, is getting the win and getting into the house.
Yeah, I mean, it's it was one of the best memories of my fighting career for sure. A really tough fight. Emil's a really nice guy, and he gave me a lot of problems. Probably my hardest fight to date. And it was back and forth, and people liked it, and some people didn't like it. I did what I had to do to win the fight, and I wasn't going to start doing no crazy things just to try and make it exciting and potentially get beat. So I was just over the moon when I got my hand raised after the third round.
I know in the past I've spoke to people that have fought to get in the house. Some won, some lost, and it's kind of that's the big moment really, because if you get into the house, there's a very, very good chance you're going to get a fight at the end of the season if it's a good season. Where if you lose at that stage, it's very, very rare that we see those guys come back, isn't it?
No, yeah, you don't tend to see the guys come back. You might do further down the line in a UFC event, but you're probably not going to see them at all again on the show unless there's an injury and someone has to drop out. For example, Timmy Gorman and Louis Fizette situation. But sometimes those guys they don't really get a call even to fight on the finale. But people who do well on the show, quite often or not, they do get the opportunity at the end to fight on the finale.
Now, as the teams were being picked, did you have a preference of which coach you were picked by?
Yeah, I was hoping to get picked by Ronda, and I was stood there and I was saying to myself, please be Ronda's team, please be Ronda's team. And then, further down the line, I'm thinking to myself, actually, please don't be last pick, just don't be last pick, don't be last pick. But, I was last pick, and I was happy that I was able to, make a good account of myself and, kind of prove that I should have been last pick, and it was nice to do that.
I think as well, to be fair, a lot of time going into these shows, especially when you're in there with American fighters, a lot of the British fighters are underrated, especially because of the wrestling. So that's probably why you were one of the last picks, or were the last pick, rather than anything they actually knew about you. It was just the fact that they always go with the safe bet, which tends to be the American fighters in their eyes.
Yeah, you can only they don't really get a chance to see much here and do much research and things like that. I think when they're watching the prelim fights, they get in the house. They have a little profile which has got a few points about achievements and style and things like that. But that's all they really get a chance to see of you, and then obviously they get the chance to see you fight. Off the back of the performance off, when I fought Emil, I wasn't overly surprised. There was some that I was picked last. There was some really good finishes and things like that. So, I knew I just had to wait the time, and I get to prove to everyone why I shouldn't have really been last pick.
Now, were you pleased as well to be on the same team as Davey Grant? Because obviously, of course, that meant you weren't going to fight each other to at least the semi-finals.
Yeah. I mean, me and Davey, we're good pals anyway. Even before we got on the show, we'd trained quite a bit together before, and as you can tell through the show, we get on really well together, and we have a good crack and that. So, I was amazed that we both got on the show. I was gutted for Paddy Houlihan as well. Paddy was another guy who had the opportunity to fight together on the show. Representing Northern Ireland, and he turned around. He got beat by Josh, which was really disappointing, and for him as well. But I know we'll get another shot. But it was like the three of us, and we were always saying, imagine if we all got on the same show and on the same team. And unfortunately for Paddy, he never managed to get on. But me and Davey did, and we ended up on the same team, which was a big bonus, because we were able to help each other out a lot. In training, we were able to help each other out when when one of us was feeling a bit tired and a bit run down. We'd go light and things like that, and we were also able to help each other with the weight cuts and talk about training and talk about home a lot. So it was really really good to be in there and with them, and being on the same team as well was just made things a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, you could see that from watching the show. There was obviously a real good close bondness between the two of you, and I think as well, with you being so far from home, I think it probably played a really, really big part. I know from speaking to Davey, he found it hard being away from his family. So having someone there that you knew, especially with the weight cuts and all the difficult times, it's always nice to have a shoulder to cry on, as they say, someone there that you can turn to who can relate to what you're going through.
Yeah, most definitely. You definitely you need someone to have a good moan to, and Americans moan differently to English people. So we had a good crack in it, as I say, and Davey's got 2 kids, back home, and he's got a fiance as well. So it was really difficult for him, being so far from home and not, wondering how they were getting on. But he did a really good job. He was able to stay focused and things like that, and keep his head screwed on in there, which was the hardest part for a lot of people in there.
Now, going into the house then, apart from obviously Davey Grant, which we know already, did you know much about any of the other contestants?
Not really. I mean, I didn't. The guys there was all the people at the trials, you split up into different groups, so you just haven't really got a clue, who is, who's going to be, who you're basically going to be fighting, or who's going to even get the call back. So basically, when you're there, you don't really get many names and things like that. So I wasn't going to go there and I was going to go to home after the trials and start racking my brains about who could potentially be on the show. I just thought, there's loads of potential opponents there. We just got to kind of go with it and adapt on the day. So I didn't really have a chance to do much research on anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a strange kind of environment, isn't it? Because you are just all put together. and you've just got to get on with it. And I suppose you see how people are in the house and in training.
Yeah, you see how people are, as I say, in training. You kind of get the word of mouth from the other contestants about what kind of style they are and things like that. And obviously, the people on your team, you get to train with them, and in a couple of days, you kind of get a feeling for the style. And the people on the other team, the Americans, I know. Chris Holsworth knew bits about Cody, and he was saying, he's a really good wrestling pedigree and things like that. And, vice versa, guys were saying, Chris has got a really good jiu-jitsu and he trains at a good gym and things. So, you kind of got a vibe and a feel, and then your coaches as the season got on kind of got a feel when they were going home and doing some research on them. So, it was one of them. You just, as you say, you just had to adapt to the situation and, make the most out of it.
Now, before we talk about your quarter-final match, because you mentioned Cody then, and of course, it was noted throughout the season that you were one of the biggest guys in the house, so therefore you probably had the most weight to cut. Was you surprised that Cody didn't make weight for his fight? And I spoke to Davey about this as well, and he was surprised at Cody quitting so soon. Was you surprised as well?
I mean, yeah, it was. Obviously, Cody is a very confident guy and a very confident fighter, and right the way through the show, when the weight cuts were coming up, and obviously you've got to make weight for 24 hours notice. So for the guys who fought a little bit towards the end of the prelim for the fights, the first set of fights, the quarter-final fights, we had like a couple of false weight cuts, so to say. We had a couple of times where we all water loaded and things like that, and we cut our food out on the day before while a fight announcement was. So we'd had a couple of them already. So I think that we were all getting to the point where we were like, right, I just want it to be now. I just want it to be my time to do it. So I was surprised with Cody. The guy's wrestled all his life, and he's had like probably most fights out of everyone in the house. And he was saying he'd never missed weight before and things like that. So I was surprised. It was the first time that he'd been down at 135. He fought at that for the fight to get in the house, and then that was the very first time. And then when he was in there, obviously he had to make it again. And, I was surprised, but at the same time, watching the decisions he made about his nutrition, but did not really, shock me. He wasn't one of these guys that was eating super clean and drinking all the right amount of water and things like that. He enjoyed the fact that there was a bit of free food, that all the food was free, and him and Anthony, did sit up late night, big ice cream and things like that. So, I didn't ever think he would miss weight, but when he did, it wasn't like I'd been seeing him eat spinach and nothing but spinach and tuna for a week. You know what I mean? He'd been kind of living the life a little bit, and I was really gutted for him. That's what he was doing it for all the right reasons. He had a family. He's got Danae and his little girl as well back home, and he's doing it for them, and to try and change their lives as well. So I was gutted for him because I know we won't make that mistake ever again, and it's a hard price to pay. For just a couple of bad decisions, and as I say, I was gutted for him, but I know we'll come back stronger from that, and he'll get a shot somewhere down the line.
Yeah, on the plus side for Cody, he has been signed in the last couple of weeks by World Series of Fighting, which of course is another big American promotion run by Ray Sefo. So he it has led to something. Not probably what he wanted to what he was aiming for at the start, but landing in World Series of Fighting is still a big step up for him from where he was coming from. So it's still it still worked out well for him, which is
most
nice.
Definitely. He was obviously one of the favourites on the show, and although we might have. He might have not have got a chance to really show that. He obviously had a fantastic performance against Rafael de Freitas before, for the fight to get in the house. That was a great fight, a great win for him. But he never got a chance to show, his skills actually in the house, which to someone who doesn't know much about him, he can prejudge and say, he doesn't want to be there. He's not a fighter, but the guy is a fighter. He's a tough guy. He's been fighting all of his life. He's he loves the sport, and he's good at it as well. So it was only, I thought, something good, really good will come before him, and he's come away with a contract for World Series of Fighting, which is obviously a nice bonus for him.
Now, I think one of the most intimidating things in mixed martial arts is Dana White on the Rampage. What was it like being in that room? It must have been so uncomfortable, because when he gets going, he just doesn't stop, does he?
He pulls no punches, that's for sure, you know. But you're right, so, you know, this guy's got a business to run and, you know, a strict timetable and things like that. And, you know, when he's getting pulled from his, you know, his weekend off to come in the gym to tell someone that they've got to go home, not because they haven't made weight, you know, that's, you know, that obviously rubs him up the wrong way, which is understandable. But yeah, you know, he's got to set an example. You know, he can't let things like this go lightly on the show. Otherwise, everyone will be doing it. You know, the last time we saw it was Gabe Rudiger, I think, back in the first few seasons, and you know, he got kicked off the show, and you know, but he ended up getting a contract further down the line, another fight in the UFC. But you know, you can't let this thing go lightly, because for someone who's uneducated in the sport and, you know, from a kind of outsider's point of view, watching it and seeing the fact that someone's missed weight, you know, it's got to be shown the fact that it's unprofessional and it's unacceptable. So, you know, he kicked Kobe off, and I think, you know, that's the only opportunity that, or the only option, that he really had.
Yeah, it's harsh, but I agree as well. Like you say, you kind of, you're there, you're being seen by the world. You've got to set an example, haven't you? And unfortunately, Cody just made a mistake. Now, in the quarterfinals, you faced Canadian wrestler Josh Hill. Now, we've already talked a little bit about Josh, because of course he fought your friend Patrick or Paddy Holohan. So, did you feel any extra pressure going in because you kind of wanted to avenge it for Paddy as well?
You know, I did. Me and Davey kept saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do this for Paddy, I'm gonna do this for Paddy." It's one of them seismic fights, you know. Paddy's one of the smaller guys for the weight class. You know, will probably be he's a force anyway at the weight, but he'd be an absolute, you know, wrecking machine, maybe a flyweight. But you know, Josh is big and physical for the weight, and you know, he's got a good wrestling pedigree as well. So he made the fight really difficult for him, and you know, we grounded out the 3-round decision. Yeah, you know, it didn't have any more pressure, so to say, but I was in my mind, you know, thinking to myself, oh, you know, I hope I can do this for Paddy, and, you know, I know they would wanted me to, you know, to get the win and to beat him. But, yeah, pressure, it wasn't really too much, you know. I think there was enough pressure floating around in there anyway, so I didn't let stuff like that try and get to me.
No, that's understandable. Now, watching the fight, of course, you know, you clearly lost the first round, but round 2, it was like you were like a different fighter. So what did you do different in that second round? What do you think the difference was between the 2 rounds? Because it was like 2 different fights.
Hello?
Are you still there?
Yeah, sorry mate, I don't know what happened there.
So I was just saying, what did you do differently in that second round? Because they were like 2 different fights. I mean, he clearly won round 1, and you clearly dominated round 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think like my own way of telling me, because I'm a bit of a slow starter. You know, Josh didn't mess about. You know, he got in and started executing the game plan that he needed to do to win the fight. So in the first round, you know, he made it really difficult for me. I thought he'd done a good job on his first few takedown attempts, really defending them. But you know, once he level changed again and he got his hands clasped together just below my backside, you know, he put me on my back, and he made the rest of the round really difficult for me. And you know, he clearly won it. The second round, you know, I knew to myself. I went back to the corner and I knew, listen, you know, I've got to pull something out the bag here, and I've got to turn it into my fight. And you know, Edmund, the coaching staff in the corner, you know, are always fantastic. But the striking coach, right at the very end, Edmund Tarvarian, he says to me, all I want you to throw is left jab, right knee. When you come out, just throw left jab, right knee. So when I actually come out for the second round, it's like fresh in my mind. And you can actually hear Edmund screaming to me, do it now. So I threw the jab landed a little bit short, and as he level changed underneath, the right knee come up, and you know, I caught him on the chin, and I think that was definitely a turning point of the fight for me. I definitely felt a momentum change. You know, the knee landed solid, he went down, you know, I dominated the second round, or you know, I definitely got the second round, and then, you know, it obviously went to a third.
Yeah, that knee was beautifully timed. It was obviously great coaching from Edmund in the corner. Yeah. Because he literally, as he crouched down, your knee went up. So it was like the impact of 2, wasn't it? Him going down and you coming up.
Yeah, you know, Josh took it really well. You know what I mean? He was he just wouldn't. You know, he kept on just hanging in there, and fighting, and he you know, he made it really difficult for me to fight. But yeah, you know, Edmund is you know, he's he's a striking, genius, and it was between him and Andy Shaman, the wrestling coach. The pair of them both said, oh, you need to throw this shot. And you actually see when the shot lands, the pair of them are cheering, but at each other. It's quite funny. You can see it in the corner. But the coaching staff and the advice they gave me throughout the season was fantastic.
Now, I don't want to dwell too much on the semi-final fight because, of course, we know that didn't go to plan. But during the build-up to the fight, you could see you were struggling. You looked, to be fair, you looked emotionally and physically drained. What was the hardest part about the whole experience?
The hardest part about the whole experience was the experience itself, really. Everything from the setup where, you've got to make weight on 24 hours notice. You don't know when you're fighting. The fights are obviously tough fights. The space between fights, there wasn't a lot of time in between fights for your body to heal and recover. Trying to constantly keep yourself around the right weight, false on, not you're doing all the prep for weight cuts, and then the actual weight cut isn't having to happen, and also the stress of being away from your family and things like that, and being around people that you don't really know. It's a tough situation to be in. Now, I did. Towards the end, I was emotionally drained, I'm physically drained, but that is not, taking away the fact that Chris beat me fair and square. He shown up on the day, he performed, he done everything that he needed to do to beat me, and he did it in the way that he did, in a good fashion. That isn't an excuse for me to turn around and say, oh, that's why Chris beat me. Chris beat me fair and square. We were both in there. If I'd have had that opportunity, I would have took it as well. But it was a tough situation to be in. My fight was a week or so before the fight with Chris, and the coaches wanted me to have a lot of rest, but I really wanted to train, and I actually got sent to hospital. They sent me you don't see it, but they sent me to hospital. They wanted me to get a vitamin B12 shot because my immune system and metabolism and everything was just kind of slowly but surely slowing right down. So they got me to have that, and then they made me rest a little bit and things. So it was a very draining process, especially leading up towards the end. It was really tough, but everyone's in the same situation.
Now, I also know as well, again from speaking to Davey, another thing that happened that wasn't shown was when you went in to pick what semi-final match you wanted. You stated that you did not want to fight Davey Grant, and Dana White told you that Davey Grant wanted to fight you. What was your reaction when he said that?
I just looked at him as if to say, really? And then he just said, "No, I'm only joking. So that was that. Like, he said it, and I just started laughing, and then he laughed as well. So it was one of them things, I think that the way that the show was, I think Misha was really pushing for me and David to fight each other in the semis. I think she was confident that Chris Holdsworth would beat Anthony, and if they were matched up together, because they'd already fought before. But you don't see it, but I know, even when I was in there, and he asked me if I wanted to fight, and I said Anthony, and I told Anthony that I picked him because I personally felt like it was on paper it was the easiest fight, and he agreed with me. But when we were in there and we were talking about it, like Misha says to me, she goes, "Oh, but don't you guys train together? And how would you guys fight each other? If she's got to the finale, how would you guys fight each other and that?" And they don't actually show you that, but I know she was really pushing for us to fight each other. Yeah,
she's just looking out for her own fighter, wasn't she? There.
Yeah, she's looking to try and make sure Chris is in there, which is understandable.
Now, obviously, you've had the experience. We're coming towards the end of watching the experience now. There's 2 episodes left. What positives do you take away from the whole tough experience?
Oh, so many. To start with, you learn a hell of a lot about yourself. You learn, as a fighter, you're constantly under pressure and criticism and things like that. But I don't think you'll ever be under as much pressure as in that situation. So actually being able to deal with that and handle it, and coming through, making a good representation of yourself, and staying professional right the way through, that's something to definitely take away from it. I remember Dana White saying, no matter what you do now in your career, nothing will be as hard as what you've just done. And I honestly think he's right. times are tough in the sport. It's very physically demanding and emotionally demanding sport. But you know, I think that coming through the show, it's you know, helped me out, and it definitely gave me a bit more confidence in myself. You know, you learn to rely on yourself a lot more. Obviously, you know, when you're back home, you're kind of spoiled with like people trying to help you out with like weight cuts and things like that, and you know, you got a big week to make it, and you know, I mean, I live at home, so you know, it's kind of a lot of things are done for me, which is nice. But in there, you know, you're relying on yourself. Obviously, the coaching staff will help you with things like weight cuts and that. But you know, you learn a lot of things from that sense as well. Also, physically, you know, you learn a lot of new techniques. You know, you kind of get a grasp of the level that you're at. You know, Josh is, you know, the number 3 ranked Canadian at 135. You know, 2 guys above him signed to the UFC. So, you know, beating someone like him, you know, it gives you a lot of confidence in your ability and things like that. So, you definitely come away with a lot of good stuff.
Now, I've seen you on BT Sport as well. So, what has the media attention been like?
The media attention's been nice. You know, it's obviously picked up. You know, things like these podcasts and things like that are enjoyable to do, and you know, I enjoy kind of giving, you know, my account of what went on and things like that, and also the blogs I've been doing from the websites as well are, you know, they're kind of, things like that are really nice. But you know, obviously your Twitter goes a bit mad. You know, I think before I went in there, I had like 1,000 followers, and now I've got like 3,500. Which is, you know, nice, and you build up a solid fan base, and things like the interviews, everything's really nice. You know, it's these are the things as an athlete, you know, and a fighter you like, you know, you work towards. Obviously, your primary goal is to fight and to win, but you know, all these little extras that come along with it are nice, and you know, you get some good exposure, which, you know, I think in this sport is definitely needed. You know, especially to get like the higher level and things like that. It's real important that, you know, your name and things like that are known by the promotions. So, you know, the media attention has been good. It's been good fun. Obviously, the stuff on BT Sport was new. You know, live TV and all that kind of stuff. It was a bit crazy, but I had a good laugh on there, and it was a good experience.
Now, you mentioned there about your blog. I don't mind you shouting out the blog. So, who are you blogging with, so people can go and check that?
I'm blogging with Your MMA. You know, they are another MMA website, and they've done a lot of stuff. I think they've done some stuff with Luke Barnett last season. He blogged for them, and you know, currently I'm doing my blogs for them. My actual blog for the last week's episode isn't out yet. I'm still in the process of writing it. Things have been, you know, hectic since you know, all last week and obviously over the weekend. So I need to sit down for 2 hours and get stuff into that, which I'm going to do. You know, but I mean, I've had a lot of positive feedback off them, you know, which is surprising because I wasn't the best in school, you know, and English and things like that. So I've got a lot of people saying to me, oh, you know, do you actually write them, or, you know, are you getting someone else too? And, you know, I think they're a good read, and give my insight to things, you know, what went on. And I also wrote a journal. I wrote a journal in the house just purely to pass time, just to moan all the time. You know, I just moan in this book. But I have a lot of quotes in the blog from the journal that people can read and, you know, hear it as it was wrote down and my thoughts directly at the time. So, you know, yeah, head up to Your MMA and, you know, have a little look, and they're on there.
Yeah, I like Your MMA. We work with them as well. They do a little segment on this podcast as well. They're certainly a great website. Certainly one of the best websites in the UK, anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, they're doing a good thing. You know, the ranking system that they've got going on is, you know, I think it's quite accurate and really good. So it's it's a good website.
Now, did you get a chance to go and watch the UFC live in Manchester?
Oh, I did, and what an experience.
What I was going to ask you, what was it like with the fans?
Oh, well, I mean, it was brilliant, you know. I mean, with Davey, have you spoken to Davey about this? Or?
Yeah, I've spoken to Davey, yeah.
Yeah, I know what he was like. He was buzzing, but I was the same, you know. I mean, I got there, and like the UFC, Davey had told me that, you know, we've got tickets up to the UFC and things like that, which was, I was thinking, oh, that's fantastic, you know, thinking could be sat absolutely anywhere, but it wouldn't bother me because at the end of the day, they were free. But I got there, I get this VIP pass put around me neck. I'm upstairs in the VIP lounge with Alexander Gustafsson, Conor McGregor, Justin Poirier as well. They're all up there. So So we go down anyway, and we get our seats, and we're sat in row A, seats 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're as close as you can get, you know. So we got down there anyway, and a couple of fights happened, and I think it was like first off, I think either me and Davey went to go to the toilet, or like we stood up for something, and people obviously kind of caught with you know, who you were, and you guys are not to a fighter, and then the next thing, people are coming over and getting pictures and pictures and pictures, and the pair of us knows to talk about 100 photos of people, with people, you know, through the night, and it was, for me, I mean, Davey will probably say the same, but for me, it was a really nice, humbling experience. I mean, all these years ago, when I'm in working, you know, 12-hour shifts, day and night, and, you know, struggling to train and things like that, you know, I'd never have imagined that I'd be sitting inside the UFC and having, you know, a lot of people asking you for photos and things like that. So it was really humbling, and for me and Davey both, you know, we both had our girlfriends there as well, so that was good fun for them to see it all. I know my girlfriend was just made up because she got to sit next to someone from Hollyoaks, but we had a good crack, we had a good laugh, and it was, as I say, it was a good experience.
Well, funnily enough, because I've been speaking to Davey on a regular basis, he's been doing a regular audio blog for my show. And funnily enough, I actually bumped into him outside when he was queuing up for his pass. I was queuing up for my pass as well, and literally I was able to bump into him and went up and said hello. But yeah, he did tell me the reaction from the fans was brilliant.
Oh, it was. You know, they were very. You know, I think that the fans in general, the UFC, enjoy the fact that they can be so in touch with, you know, the fighters and the athletes, and the stars of the sport. And, you know, I'm not calling myself a star of the sport by any means, but, you know, people who you see fight, and, you know, in the UFC or, you know, on the Ultimate Fighter, you know, we're very kind of contactable on social media, but also, you know, at the shows and things like that. You know, we're not sat up in a, you know, booth in Rose Ed and, you know, hiding away. You know, we're down there, we're with the fans, and, you know, we're having the same view as them. So, you know, it was. I think they appreciated as well, but I know we definitely did.
Well, I just want to say it's been a real pleasure. I was looking forward to getting on and having a chat with you. I've really enjoyed the chat today, so thank you again for coming on to the show.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, you know, anytime over any episode, or, you know, I know there's not many left, but, you know, you want to have a chat about next episode or the episode after, you know, anytime. I'm always up for it. I enjoy, you know, giving, you know, my side of the story, and obviously, you know, letting everyone know kind of the things that I went through, and, you know, Davey as well, and everyone went through in there, and, you know, because like this whole thing is, you know, it's a crazy experience, a crazy opportunity, but, you know, it's not. You just gotta be able to work hard towards it. You know, work hard, put yourself in the right situation where you're training with the best people, and, you know, this kind of it's kind of an opportunity in a situation that seems, you know, impossible for some people. It really isn't. You know, it's very achievable.
Well, I'll certainly be getting you back on the show. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a fight announced for you soon. They tend to announce them towards the end of the season, so I'll get you back on either before or after the fight, and we'll certainly talk about that. And I'll be following you anyway. Just want to say congrats on a great showing. I mean, you really did do well in the house, and I think the win over Josh Hill showed everyone that, you know, how good you were as a fighter, but also how you could counteract against someone who was, you know, who looked like a pure wrestler, and you beat him and you out wrestled him. And I'll certainly look forward to seeing you in the UFC.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I've had a good time, so thank you.
No worries. Before we let you go, though, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout outs. I want to thank any friends, family, sponsors, and also let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I am a bit of a Twitter-holic, so I'm always on Twitter. It is at Mike Wooten. Mike, and then Wooten is spelled Wootten. And there's also a Facebook fan page as well. That you know, if you like, that's like linked as well to my Instagram account, so you get to see all the photos and things like that I'm throwing on, and a lot of silly stuff, but a lot of, you know, interesting stuff about training. Also, family, you know, parents, also my girlfriend and all my family, everyone that supports me right the way through the season and even beforehand. You know, these are the guys that push me and, you know, help me, you know, achieve the goal. So I like to thank all them. Obviously the coaches as well, you know, Jason Fannin, Peter Davis at the MMA Academy, the strength and conditioning coach, Peter Angel, the guys down there at the Red Triangle as well, Paul and Nick Stevo, and everyone else at the gym, Jay Owen, Andy Jones, you know, Peter Yard, everyone that's They're helping me train day in, day out. You know, everyone's been a huge help, and you know, they help me perform well on the show. So they're the guys that all the behind the scenes, should we say.
Well, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure, so thank you for coming on to the show.
No problem. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this week's show. As always, we'll be back again next week with more guests and more segments from the world of MMA and from the UK MMA scene. So thank you very much for listening to the show.